Chip Hanauer pilots turbine-powered hydroplanes, the top of the line.
I've never been able to come up with a really good analogy for the layperson to understand the feeling of what it's like to go 200 miles an hour in an unlimited hydroplane. But your vision gets very narrow, almost like tunnel vision or looking down a pipe because you're so focused. And things are sped up so much chronologically, where we're traveling around a 2.5-mile race course in under a minute.
Okay. Push off, bud. Don't overshoot.
When you're in the boat, you're numb. You're physically numb, and you're emotionally numb, and you're somewhat mentally numb because you're not using your conscious mind anymore. You're just letting it happen. You kind of let go. You've been in the situation many times before. Your mind knows what to do, and you just kind of give it that rein and let it go. Racing is a very selfish thing. It consumes all my time, most of my emotion, and it's a very dangerous thing. I would hate to have a family sitting on the beach, having no control, seeing a loved one out there being so vulnerable, and as vulnerable as you are in a race.
Chip's team has a kind sponsor in this cruelest of sports. Fran Muncie treats her group like a family. She has 2 boats in the San Diego race today, Chip's boat and the pink Circus. Her ties to this sport are deep and personal.
19 years ago, I married Bill Muncie. I didn't see my first race until a year after we'd been married. So I was a wife for many years until 1981 when he was killed in Acapulco. And I continued with the team. I felt that I owed it to Bill just because this sport was his life. He loved it. He was its greatest ambassador. So I did it for him in the beginning, and I became very close to Chip Hanauer. I've made a commitment that as long as he wants to stay in racing and we're competitive, that I'll do it forever.
As a child, my walls were covered with pictures of racing, be they motorcycles, boats, cars, whatever. Growing up in Seattle, the first opportunity that afforded itself to me in motorsports was boat racing because Seattle is such a hotbed of boat racing. I would have seized any opportunity that came my way, whether it would have been in a small motorcycle or a go-kart or anything that I could get my hands on. A hydroplane is a boat that's designed to fly over the water rather than go through it. The problem is, the higher you get it out of the water, the more unstable it's going to get. But the reason you want to get the boat out of the water is that the less drag that the water has on the hull, obviously the faster you're going to go. So it's walking a tightrope. It's getting the boat up and free of the water's surface, but yet remaining stable. On a race day, you just become very focused. You try and shut out everything else. If you have problems in other parts of your life or concerns, those basically have to be left in the truck. And when you get into the boat, you've got to be thinking about only one thing, and that's what you've got to get accomplished on the race course. It's very specific. Where do I want to be at certain times? How do I want to maneuver a certain driver to where he doesn't want to be?
That boat, and looks like they're just going to put a new one in, so we're going to see how that
Some race courses, you can take an unlimited hydroplane and do what we call flat foot, and that's basically where you can drive the boat all the way around the race course without lifting your foot off the accelerator. San Diego is one of those kind of race courses, and it's an unnerving feeling because your conscious mind every once in a while is wanting you to pull that foot up a little bit, but you know that if you're going to set records or you're going to win races, you've got to let it, give it its lead and let it go. Never feeling the throttle come off the stop is difficult to do.
Even if Chip can conquer all the emotional traps and hit every split-second turn, there's one dangerous factor on this course that's beyond his control. These boats are meant to race on freshwater lakes, and at any moment, the salt of the San Diego harbor can send all his dreams and efforts up in smoke.
On race day, you could see not only engines being destroyed by our own team, but the saltwater environment, I think, is going to claim a lot of victims.
Chip Hanauer thought the team's sole victim that day would be his own mechanically troubled boat. But elsewhere on the course, teammate John Prevost was headed for tragedy.
He gets a little loose. John Prevost can't get it down. End over end. 6,000 plus pounds of boat, and he breaks apart on impact. The rescue crews were quick to get there.
Miraculously, John survived the crash and was on his feet within hours.
I tell you, you really think about a lot of things while that's going on. It seemed like 30 seconds it was in the air. And my escape hatch on the floor is got made out of clear plastic, so I could see the sky and the water from that, and I was just waiting for a violent hit. I didn't know which way it was coming, and you just sort of think, well, this is it, and where is it going to come from? And then there was a violent thud, and I sort of blacked out for a while, and then I came to, and the boat was right side up.
It wasn't until John returned from the hospital that he realized just how severe the crash had been. When he learned that the boat was beyond repair, he was inconsolable. Characteristically, John's only concern was that he had let the team down, and their only concern was for him.
I think anytime you do something that's difficult and you do something that's dangerous with a group of people, you grow very close. I think closer than you do in any other situation. Not everything in your life comes out the way you want it to. And this is one of those weekends. This isn't what we wanted. We wanted to come here and run first and second and do well in front of Fran's hometown and do well for our sponsors. It didn't happen, and you just can't let that paralyze you, and that you've got to go on.
I usually would feel really drained and down, but I don't, because as soon as I realized that we couldn't solve our saltwater problem here at this race, I started thinking about the next race. And Chip is so happy with the boat, the way it's running. I think it's really going to be a rocket in Las Vegas, and I think we have a real good chance of winning.
1 week later, at the Silver Cup races at Lake Mead, they had shut out the disaster. And now they were ready to risk it all again, with Chip as the team's only entrant.
The intensity just kind of builds on a race week. It starts to build when you're getting things in order at home, as you're packing your bags, taking care of all the business that's got to take care of itself while you're not there. Get on the airplane, you get into the hotel, you get down to the race course, you watch the guys set up the boat, and it just builds and builds and builds through qualifying and testing until you get down to that final heat. And when they're lowering the boat into the water for that final heat, that's where it kind of all comes to a head, and it's got to all happen at that one moment.
The water on this course is the roughest on the circuit. Chip, who is 3 times national champion of this sport, can win here, but only by pushing the edge every second. Chip did win the first 3 heats of this race. But as always, he was riding that very thin line between victory and survival.
I think I've made a pact with myself that until I get this racing business out of my system and have accomplished what I want to accomplish, I don't think I would take on the responsibility of a wife, and especially children and a family. I think it would be a very selfish thing to do. I think it's the people that miss us in death that suffer, not those that die.